Hi, Peter Jones, Chartered Surveyor, author and property investor. And today I want to think about buying properties through estate agents, because quite often when I talk to new or beginner investors and I talk about how to source properties, they look really surprised when I tell them that most of my deals have come through estate agents. And I think that they assume that in order to be a professional property investor, we have to use much more creative ways of finding properties. Now, there are creative ways of finding properties, and we'll think about that in a moment, but finding properties through estate agents is the bread and butter of investing. I think the common objection that most people have in their minds is that they think that the estate agent maybe will have preferred buyers, people who they want to do deals with because they know they can act quickly and who they perhaps are doing a bit of a deal on the side with, which they probably shouldn't be, but we won't go into that. And because of that, the best deals are kept in the bottom drawer of their desk, never to see the light of day, and unless you're on their preferred buyer list, you're never going to get those deals. Well, there may be some truth in that. Of course, the key thing is that when we begin to become a professional property investor, when we decide that property is our thing, we need to go out and meet the estate agents and go and see them regularly so that we can build rapport, so that we can eventually be on that list. But here's the thing. There are many different strategies in property, and what you may call a good deal may not be what I'd call a good deal. And so the deal that the estate agent actually has in their bottom drawer in their desk, if you were to see it, you might think, well, actually, that's not the sort of deal I want to do anyway. So just because the estate agent's got it in mind for a particular buyer doesn't mean it would necessarily suit your buying criteria or my buying criteria. So we may not be missing out at all. But here's the thing, even if we were, if you think about it, an average estate agent maybe has, 100 properties on their books at any one time? Even if they have one of their deals hidden away for their preferred buyers, that still leaves 99 properties. And I would say that within that 99 properties, there's going to be maybe half a dozen properties which are going to fit your buying criteria or my buying criteria, depending upon what that is, because it's a numbers game. And our role as an investor is to go through the properties that are left and to find the deals that work for us. So would I use estate agents? Yes, I do. I found many of my very best deals through estate agents. The key thing is to get to know them and to build rapport and to try to get to understand the motivation of the vendor. Why do I say that? Because if you want to buy a property at a bargain price, it's usually because the vendor has a motivation to sell quickly. How will you find the motivation of the vendor? Well, you may not always be able to, but depending upon your relationship with the estate agent, you can talk to the estate agent and find out what the story is behind the sale. Or, if the estate agent won't tell you, you could always be a bit sneaky and make an appointment to view the property out of hours when the estate agent won't want to accompany you, and they'll just make sure that the vendor's in to let you in, and then you can have a chat with the vendor as you go around the property. Now, as I said, there are creative ways of finding property deals, and we can think about this in a future video. But the key thing about the creative ways of finding properties is that what you're essentially trying to do is you're trying to get in touch with the vendor before they get in touch with the estate agent. Now, some vendors won't go to an estate agent out of principle because they just don't like estate agents, and maybe 1% of the population fall within that group. Then there's others who like to sell their property and probably would go to the estate agent, but if you can get to them first, you may be able to deal direct. And the ways to do that are things like leafleting your area, putting newspaper ads in, using bandit boards. Those are the yellow boards that you see on traffic lights and lampposts and all that kind of stuff. And that can encourage vendors to get in touch with you direct, which means that you can get to them before they even get to the estate agent. That can be another way of finding properties. But keeping it simple, the vanilla way is to just go to the estate agents, to go to all of the estate agents in your chosen area, get to know them, build rapport, and you'll start finding the deals. One tip for you though, if you want to find motivated sellers, one thing you could do, and this is a great question to ask the estate agent, is to say, have you got any properties that are empty at the moment? Why? Why is that a great question? Because if they've got properties which are empty, it usually shows some kind of motivation, because it may be that the vendor's died, it could be that the vendor's perhaps split up, divorced, and they've moved out. It could be because they've had to relocate and leave the property behind, look for a buyer while they've moved. All sorts of things can be happening there. So empty properties are usually great ones So go in and ask your estate agent, got anything empty, got any of your clients need to sell really quickly, and you'll find the deals. Here's to successful property investing.